In a gray, cold era in the Welsh valleys, the weather heralded the arrival of winter. Cold winds swept through the farms and fields, and ice began to appear. In the countryside, horses worked tensely, and birds migrated south. The old Morgan house, built of heavy rocks, contained the illustrious history of the Morgan family documented in old papers and manuscripts. Inside the house, old Robert sat by the fire, smiling sadly and defiantly, resigned to his fate. His wife, Mother Morgan, a strong woman, always tried to keep things in order and take care of the family, including their young son Henry, who felt an emptiness and a need to achieve something important in his life. 15-year-old Henry pondered his life, feeling unaccomplished. Henry inherited his parents' features equally, but had more resolve than he appeared. Mother Morgan, despite her love for her husband, viewed his failures in her own way. One winter night in the Morgan house, old Robert, Mother Morgan, and young Henry sat by the fire. The atmosphere was charged with ghosts and legends, and the house was quiet except for the sound of the fire. A strange man appeared at the door. It was David, the former farm boy who had left for the seas and returned after many years. David was tired and pale and began telling stories of his adventures in the West Indies, where he faced dangers and Indians. He spoke of pirate life, tales of killing and adventure, and of how he became rich but unhappy. He talked about the poisonous jungle's effect on his health and how his condition deteriorated due to strange diseases. Mother Morgan prepared something warm for David, while Henry listened in awe. David spoke of his suffering and guilt for the dreadful deeds he had committed. He pointed to a scar on his arm caused by Indian arrows that would eventually kill him. He also spoke of the brown-skinned Indians, their bravery, and how they always fought back. Robert advised him to speak to the parish priest to ease his soul's burden, but David refused, saying the problem was not his soul but the poison. David ended his talk about the harsh life in the Indies and the difficulty of surviving there, while Henry was eager to know more about those adventures. On the same cold winter night, David described how Indians tortured white men. He suffered from the effects of the poisons he encountered in the jungle, which weakened his body. He asked for a place to sleep in Robert's house because he could no longer stay away from the jungle. Young Henry, filled with enthusiasm and adventure. Robert, despite his sadness, tried to warn him of the dangers he might face. But Henry was determined to leave. Robert asked Henry to think about the worry and sorrow his parents would suffer because of his departure and to visit old Merlin. In the end, Robert pondered why parents wish to have children, realizing that parents hope their children achieve what they themselves could not. Despite the harshness of Henry's departure, Robert understood that his son possessed the courage. The following morning, old Robert entered the house after spending some time in his flower garden, where he told his wife about their son Henry's desire to travel to the Indies. The mother responded angrily, considering Henry too young. Robert tried to calm her and explained that he had seen Henry's desire to travel growing over time, especially after David's exciting tales of adventures. Robert considered that trying to prevent him would be futile and might even drive him to leave. At noon, Robert headed to his garden to work the soil around his plant's roots, using his strong, brown hands. The sun was light, and the weather was cold as winter slowly crept in. Suddenly, Henry came and stood near his father, hesitant to speak.